Hey folks, Sheila here from Design Files. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can take a design like this and customize the ceiling so that you can create a look like this using the 3D floor planner. So we're going to build out a coffered ceiling, and it's only going to take a few simple steps. So let me go right back to this particular design here where I've already cleared out all of the ceiling edits. We're going to edit that and we're going to build this out step by step. Now that that has loaded in, I'm just going to jump into the 3D perspective mode. And we're going to zoom into this design here. So if I want to create a coffered ceiling design, what I'm actually going to do before I start to make before I click on the ceiling and edit it, I'm actually going to go into this gear icon right here, and I'm going to switch my measurements from feet and inches to inches. And the reason I want to do that is because I find it to be a lot easier to do some simple math when I'm just dealing with inches versus having to think about feet and inches. So you can do the same thing, switch over to inches. Once you've done that, you can close down this panel, you can click into the ceiling, hit the edit icon, and that will take you into the ceiling editor. Now in here, this is basically the surface of your ceiling, and the blue line is where your ceiling is meeting the edge of the wall. The extra space beyond that, that's just accounting for any cases where you might have door openings and we need to see a little bit of the floor that is between the edge of the wall through to the door into the next space. And the green lines, this is where it's indicating where you have added additional structures. So if I open this up, you can see that I've added in a fireplace, and that's just letting me know where that fireplace is. So if you need to account for things like that while you are customizing your ceiling, you'll have those indicators. Now in this case, I wanted to create a coffered ceiling where I'm going to have 9 squares. So you can see that I've got 167 inches by 167 inches, so this is a square room. I'm going to do 3 squares across and 3 squares down for a total of 9. So what I need to do before I create my coffered ceiling is I'm going to have to do a little bit of math here to decide how thick the framing is going to be between each of these squares. So I'm going to pop open my calculator. We'll clear this out. And I'm basically going to start by first adding in the full length of the ceiling here. So 167 inches. Now I thought I would do 8-inch thick framing. So if I do 8-inch thick framing and I'm going to have 3 squares, it means I'm going to have framing on the outside edge and in between each of the squares and on the outside edge again. So there's going to be 4 sections where there's 8-inch thick framing. So 4 times 8 is 32. So I'm going to subtract 32 from the total length of the wall, and that's going to give me 135 inches, which is the remaining amount that I'm going to be using towards the squares. So I'm going to divide that by 3 because I'm going to have 3 squares running across here. So we'll divide that by 3, and that means that each of my squares are going to be 45 inches wide. And because my room is a square room, it's going to be 45 inches wide and 45 inches, well, I don't know, both ways basically, because it's not necessarily height, but both ways. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the rectangular option in the right side panel here. And I'm just going to add a rectangular shape. I'm not going to worry about getting the measurements exact. We'll deal with that in a minute. I'm going to zoom in here. And what I want to do here is basically line up this square shape so that I've got 8 inches here and 8 inches here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull on the edge until I have this at 45. And I'm also going to change this so I've got it at 45. There we go. Now in my case, I'm actually going to have the square shapes on this particular ceiling are going to be a wood finish. So I'm going to go into the texture library now. I'm going to go down into wood. You'll see that you've got different options. If you wanted to have it painted, you've got paint libraries that you can go into. I just prefer to do a wood finish in this case. I'm going to go into the wood texture. You'll see that there's lots of textures that you can choose from. I've got a specific one that I'm working with, so I'm just going to put in the code for it. So it's 04461, hit enter, and it's going to show it right here. So I'm going to click on this texture and then click directly into the square, and it's going to add it. So now what I can do is I can duplicate this square, and when I move it, you're going to see that these grid lines or these dotted guidelines appear where it kind of snaps it in. So it's going to help you align your squares. And then I'm just going to shift this up until it is 8 inches in between. And I'm just using the left, right, and up, down arrows on my keyboard to do that. So we'll just do this, 8 inches. Now that I've got these 3, I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard, and if you're on a Mac, you can hold down Command, and I'm going to select the other 2, duplicate all 3 at once, shift it over, and then I'm just going to line it up so that there we go. So I've got my next 3, I'm going to duplicate it again, drag it over here, and I'm just going to roughly get it into place because then I can use my left, right, and up, down arrows on my keyboard until I have it exactly where I want it to be. So now, if I open this up, you're going to see that I've got all my wood panels in. So what I need to do now is I need to extrude this area right here so that the framing comes down into the space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the gray area on my ceiling here. So it's basically this giant square that was filling the overall ceiling. So I'm clicking on that. I'm going to go back to my texture library into Paint. I'm going to go into Faro and Ball, and I believe the color I wanted was Archive. So I'll search for that. Click on the color, click directly into the ceiling. You're going to see that it's going to load in here, but it's still flat. So now what we need to do is we need to extrude that down. So I'm just going to extrude this 5 inches. And then you're going to see that it's going to pop down, and you can see all the shadows and how the light is catching on the framing. So if I go ahead and I save my ceiling, there you go. Just like that. Pretty simple steps. So the biggest thing is just basically doing the math to just define how thick you want the frame to be, and then that will help you determine what the overall size of your squares are going to be. You can follow the steps that I used for the equation within this video, and then you can just add in all of your squares. You can apply whatever texture you want to it, and remember that you need to click on the outer area if you want to extrude that frame down so that it comes down into the space. So if I did 10 inches, you're going to see how it's going to extend down into the space. You can do as little as you want, maybe 2 inches. I just like the way it looked with 5, and then go ahead and save your design, and that should do the trick. So definitely, if you haven't tried out the ceiling editor within the DesignFiles 3D Floor Planner, jump in and give it a go. There is a ton of different ways that you can customize your ceilings using that tool. And of course, if you've got any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us on the live chat. We're always happy to help. Thanks for watching.